So he has great experience. He's about to hit Icon for the second time now. He's recruited multiple agents and is growing that. So really looking forward to Mark sharing his wealth of knowledge with us. So without further ado, let's get started, Mark.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here because virtually everyone on this call is a rock star in real estate. So I don't know how much I'm going to be able to help you, but we're trying to do this every Thursday for people that we're bringing into the organization. We've got a lot of newer agents, but this is definitely a seasoned crew. So I'm just going to share with you some of you've seen, some of it you haven't, what I do and what our group kind of does. And let me share my screen and I'll just show you the big picture of all this. So first of all, this starts, we're going to do goals today, but I wanted to show you the bigger picture of what this is. So the goals are a part of a business plan that I put together and that we put together as a group for our sphere. So there are a lot of different ways to generate leads and to build your business. It's not all through sphere, but ultimately everyone goes into your sphere. And so this is part of a bigger plan. And I just wanted to buzz through the plan for those of you that haven't seen it, just so that you can get an idea of what we're going to cover in future weeks. So I call this business plan sphere of influence system. Basically, it's got 4 components to it. We set goals, which is what we're going to talk about doing today. And we make sure we have a database that's in a CRM, either KV Core, or right now I'm using a different one called Contactually, which is going out of business. So I'm going to try to move to KV Core. You take that database and you categorize it. So I put them in what we call buckets, and I'll show you kind of what that is. And then you mark it to the CRM or your sphere really consistently, okay? But the first one is goals, which is what we're gonna be mostly talking about today. Goals are broken up into someday, 5-year, 3-year, 1-year, monthly, and weekly. And everything I'm gonna show you is stolen from somewhere else. Everything. So the goal system that we're going to talk about today is from The One Thing, the book, The One Thing. It's Gary Keller co-wrote it. And I found it when I started with Keller Williams and I read everything Gary Keller, and I found that this was really helpful to me. But before we get to goals, that's one part of the business plan. We also talked about database and categories and buckets. And so this is a screenshot of my database, which is Contactually, and I've broken it down into current clients, top 50 VIPs, top 50 past clients, sphere of influence, METs in it. You can't see the rest, but there's business partners. I've got agent attraction in there now, all kinds of things. And it shows you, like if you look at top 50 VIPs, what I do for each category. So if you've never been in real estate, we talk to you about how to introduce yourself to make sure that you get yourself out there. So once you have a database set and you've got as many addresses, emails, everything, Facebook page addresses, everything in there, you mail out to your sphere, you email, you social media blast so that everyone knows that you're in real estate. This was a hard thing for me when I started because I was a teacher and then I was an administrator over the fine arts department for our school district. So I was in charge of hiring and budgets. So internal audit told me I couldn't tell anybody. It was fine if I was in real estate, but I could not tell anybody that I was in real estate. So I was like, oh, well, that's difficult. Once I did kind of decide I was going to do this full time, I put out a letter that talked about my past and how I was going to use all those skills for the future. And I put it on social media, and I also put Facebook page, all those kinds of things out. So then we go into what we call MAP. MAP is a Tony Robbins thing, massive action plan, and how we approach it yearly, quarterly, monthly, and weekly. So I'm just busting through all this. Usually we'd spend time talking on each of these, but I want to get to the goals pretty quickly. So this is a little thing that just shows what I do yearly, quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily. And I've got it in a better form here. So every month I try to do a email blast through MailChimp, which is free. And Happy New Year's, Valentine's Day. There's only a couple of months that don't have a holiday. And I try to do 2 emails. The other one is an evidence of success or something of that nature. So a picture of me selling a home, and people love to see pictures of other people. So I closed a home yesterday, got a photo of them signing, got a photo of them in front of the house. And, those are things I'll send out. at least 2 social media posts. Honestly, we all do more than that. I probably do 1 or 2 a week. An 8x8, that's from the Ninja book, so I won't go into it, but it's a good thing to do each month. And then I try to do an event or a class. So an event could be, it could be when I went to the Tony Robbins event with EXP. It could be going to Randy's EXP Explained. It could be a real estate class to get a certification. It could be lots of different things. If you notice, every third month, March and June, September and December, I have what's called a letter of the heart. This is pretty old school, and you could probably email this, but I do mail it. And my mentor, who's not with EXP, but a really good realtor, showed me this, and I send these. I'll have people that talk about. So here's an example of one. This was Christmas. You make them really personal, and they mean something. So I got my little screen thing in the way here. This one is called Mammal's Soup. It's what we've made in our family forever, and I talk about it, and I put pictures. That's an actual picture of my cat in the tree. Just things that are personal, usually one page that I send out. You can put a card in it if you want, a business card, or you don't. But a lot of times I don't do that. Here's one after a friend passed away, and his funeral really said a lot to me. And his big thing was the dash, and that he felt like your life is defined by what you do between the beginning and the end, the dash. And so I did a whole thing on that just because I thought it was a really good message. Here's one. I took a bold class, and they did this exercise with us. Change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change. And there's that picture. I'm sure many of you have seen that. That could either be an old lady or a pretty young woman turning her head to looking away from you. So that's one I did, and I talked about my class and those kinds of things. So that's what I do on a monthly and letter of the heart quarterly basis. And it's just part of something that we're trying to help new agents learn and do so that they have kind of a systematic plan towards their sphere. I'm going to tell you, this works. If you do these things and you do them consistently, you'll stay in touch with the people in your sphere, and they'll stay in touch with you when they need your services. This is called the weekly, by the way.
We have an order that we instead of calling it today, and let's just say I'm on vacation and I don't have a laptop with me. I can go ahead and email all the information to process the order.
Is this somebody asking a question? I can't hear it.
No, I think she has her mic on.
Oh, okay. Okay, I thought somebody was asking me a question. Here's the last one, the back to school letter of the heart. Aren't I cute? Look at me back then. And if you notice, I make them humorous. It says Mark Chambers Elementary School, and I put current age 27, which everyone knows I'm not 27. So anyway, I thought it was cute. So those are examples of that. And then we have what I call the weekly. I know Tony does something a little bit different from this, but I basically try to each week fill this out and have 5 face-to-face. I won't go into what that means, 2 break breads, and then 40 great phone calls, text, emails, or Facebook messages. So interacting with people in my sphere. And I break it down on Monday with my VIPs. Those are people that I'm really super duper good friends with, and I can call them up and just say, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And usually we end up talking about real estate always. Current clients on Tuesdays, if not before. You talk to current clients all the time, it seems like. Past clients, business partners, and referral targets on Thursday. And then my database, so database, 56 letters in the alphabet. I think, is that right? 26, 52, 26, but then you do them twice, sorry. So you do the A's one week, the B's another week. So it's letter of the week. And so you just go through your sphere and reach out to them in whatever way. I'm not a big courageous person, and I don't, if I don't know someone super well, I don't like picking up the phone and going, hey, how's it going? So I typically will, just reach out to somebody through text, or, if I don't know them that well. And a lot of people enjoy that, especially the younger generation enjoy that kind of contact. And then because I have so many teachers that are part of my business, I do my leads on the weekend. So I reach out to, I'll show it in 2 minutes, but I have a hot list, and I kind of make sure that I've touched base with them, as needed. Not every week sometimes, but I'll fill in the ones I need to on that little column there. At the bottom, you have a personal note. Those are like birthday cards, anniversaries, a thank you note. And then one real estate review a week is the goal. And that's a good way to connect with past clients that you haven't talked to in a long time. So not going to spend time on that. If you don't know what a real estate review is, we'll cover that. And it's also from the Ninja book. We'll cover that in a little bit, maybe a couple of weeks or so. And then daily, this is super important. So you set your goals and now you're ready to set the world on fire. And then tomorrow hits and things just don't feel so good. So there's 3 keys to mastery for the daily for me: the mindset, my skill set, and just being a person of action. So on mindset, I'm just going to go over this briefly, but we've learned that you're in one of 4 quadrants as you live each day. And so there's high energy, there's low energy, and then you see to the left, there's negative energy and positive energy. And what you want to do is you want to live on the right side, the 2 right quadrants, as much as possible. So when athletes are performing, or when we're performing, we're in a listing appointment, or we're doing whatever, the high performance quadrant, the top right, high energy and positive energy, is happiness, inspiration. Did I spell that right? I spelled that wrong. Inspiration, confidence, love, positive, spelled wrong again, expectations. And then where you want to kind of stay, because you can't keep that energy up all the time, is contentment, relaxation, safety, love, positive, spelled wrong again, expectations. I'll get all this corrected at some point. So the right side is where you want to be, the right bottom is where you want to kind of live, and then you want to be able to pull into that high energy quadrant, performance quadrant. Randy, I'm sure that you kind of have to pull yourself into that quadrant before you do those amazing presentations. And I've thought about you when I look at this, about getting your mind prepped to present to a lot of people, and you know what that takes. So I'm sure you're kind of aware of that. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that we all live.
Yeah, and also I know that Jason, I mean, obviously,
Somebody's got
but
to
I'm
open.
saying that,
Yeah,
I will change
Linda maybe needs
it
to.
to Jason. Okay.
It's Linda, I think. Linda?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah, looks like you got it.
Okay, go ahead, Randy.
Well, I was just going to say we all wake up on this beautiful planet we call Earth, and life is right there with us, right? And some days, this is one of the things that I say is that we never know what season somebody is in their life, right? We never. For some of us, it's spring, right? And everything is growing, and for some of us, it's winter and everything's dying, right? So, everyone that I run into, I know that they're in one of the 4 seasons in their life, and so that's the perspective that I try to take. It's helped me not get in the left-hand side of your chart here, right? It's easy to become angry with someone that's behaving from their perspective if their life is in winter, right? And things around them are dying, or things are failing, or they lost their job, or they're going to behave differently than and so what I've tried to convince myself on that side is what people do is not who they are. Many times what people do is not who they are. And so that's helped me not take things personal. And that's helped me push to that right-hand side over there, right? Where you are. So as far as for presenting, you're right. I mean, you're going to watch, if you come to a few of them, you're going to see that I'll probably disappear before the presentation, right? And that's to get by myself and try my very best to take everything out and make sure that I'm that instrument, right? That everyone that showed up, I hope, is there for a reason, right? They're exchanging their time for hopefully just a nugget, a piece of message, something that's going to change their life. So yes, I do my very best to try and get in that frame of mind where I can be in that top right quadrant.
That's awesome. I like what you said. How they act isn't who they are. How'd you say that again?
Yeah. So what people do is not who they are.
What people do is not who they are. I need to remember that, because I tend to, this life is a frenzy. And so you tend to really take.
Yes. And so listen, and I go a little further, and this isn't my thing, but this is what helps me. What I realize is that bad people can do good things, and it doesn't make them good people. And good people can do bad things, and it doesn't make them bad people, right? So really bad people are bad people and good people are good people. And what they do doesn't define who they are. And many times in my life, I wish I could have taken my reaction or my response back, because later I find out that that individual was in a really tough time in their life. And the version that I saw at that moment is not who they are at all. And the way I responded to it, I could have been much better as a human, you know? So anyway, just a little, just a little nugget.
No, that's great. I mean, I think this is such a key part to, you know, when we set goals here or when we talk about setting goals, it's such a key part of making them stick and happen is this everyday mindset. So,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
it's key. It's so key. Thank you for that. And, I didn't mean to switch, but so, yeah. So what do you do? Just briefly going to touch on this. What do you do when you're not in the quadrants you want to be in, which can be often? I think, Randy, you said we're all on different seasons. How do you get into a different state? This is all from Tony Robbins. Responsibility, strategies to change your emotional state. We can share this so you can have it later. But gratitude, focus on what you're grateful for. Exercise, music, listen to something positive or something that makes you feel good. Go on a hike, be in nature, learn, read a book, take a class, learn something new, escape, go to the movie, go to a ball game, mentally check out. Positive people, be around positive people that are going to lift you up. And mentors and coaches, turn to them for help to avoid the traps. So those are some things you can do to try to get in these right quadrants here. Something I do every day is I have a ritual and a routine to establish my mindset. I haven't always done this, and I got this from the Miracle Morning. I don't do exactly this in this way. This is a little bit of a mix of the Miracle Morning and Tony Robbins, but every day I try to be silent and just breathe and just listen and be still and be mindful. And if you're a person of faith, it's a time to pray. Whatever you want to call it, it's just a moment for you to be still and not start with your to-do list, but to start more mindful. Affirmations are a huge thing. I went through a real, the beginning of COVID, April 2020. Alan knows this, but I confided a lot to him. I told him I didn't even think I wanted to sell real estate anymore. I was so tired. And he was like, you should take a break. And I finally got to a place where I kind of broke out of that funk. And then I didn't have confidence. My confidence had really, I don't think I had a deal those first 3 or 4 months, and my confidence was just down. So I began to listen to some things and begin to do some affirmations every day when I would do a walk, and a lot of visualization with that. And I ended up having, that was my first, I made Icon that year. I had never made Icon. So really from April to the end of the year and the first 2 months of the next year became my strongest year. And I'm convinced a lot of it was just getting myself into the right mindset. Exercise is good. My wife is religious about it because she absolutely feels like it changes her state, and it does. And I would like to do more of that. I do a lot of walking, but I'd like to do other stuff. Reading is great. And then scribing. I'm terrible at this. I don't write down my thoughts the way I should. I don't journal very much, but that's another part of from the Miracle Morning Savers is to scribe, to write things down. So all those I would highly recommend you play around with each day to get your day started. You don't have to spend a ton of time at it. But if you get yourself in a ritual, habit of starting your day correctly and never look at my phone when I start the day, and then you can go at it and you can go after the plan. So that's the biggest part of our business plan. There is skill set, learning new classes, getting certifications, learning how to do a CMA, improving your listing skills, buyer skills. That's what we mean by that. And lastly, be a person of action. I'm going to talk about this in just a minute with our goals, but time block, set your calendar and live by it within reason, and follow through with the weekly tracker. Have some sort of accountability system that helps you achieve the things that you need to do to stay in touch with your business and your sphere. Jenny Williams, I don't know if you guys know her. She's a rock star agent in Alabama, EXP agent, and she has a thing. She has a point system that you just rack up each day as you do things, and some of it's exercise, and you get 30 points. And it's really cool for people that don't like the spreadsheet like I showed earlier. and like to make more of a fun thing out of it, whatever works for you is that helps you be a person of action is what we'd recommend. So that's it on the business plan. As we mentioned, or as I mentioned, the very first thing we do in the business plan is set goals. And so I'm gonna unshare that and go to the goals. Before I do that, while I'm getting the new screen up, is there anybody that has any questions or anybody that wants to contribute to any of that? Remember, there's so many amazing realtors on this call. Please fill in if you can add to this at all. And I'm trying to find my screen. There we
Mark,
go.
it's good to know, like what you were just talking about, like you were down in April of 2020. I don't think anybody would have thought that, being a You Hit icon. So it's nice to know that obviously you're human, but to know that, somebody like of your stature, because I've got a lot of respect for you, was able to be so vulnerable and to share that you weren't feeling it, but yet you're able to turn it around and have a great year, man. So that's pretty inspiring.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, we all go through, I bet if you, I don't know, pick Dayton Schrader, somebody who's just untouchable in our eyes. I can tell you that probably everybody goes through that and goes through moments of self, doubt and lacking confidence. That certainly is me. So, and that was a rough time for me, but it was a good time for me as well to try to reassess things. And I think probably a lot of people went through that when COVID started. And then of course the market took off too, so that helped. But thanks for that. Now I didn't title this. This is directly from The One Thing, a kick-ass guide to goal setting. And this is just one look. You can actually download this on the internet for free. This is just one part of the book, but I found this really, really helpful to me. And so I'm going to show you the aspects of it, and then you can tweak it how you want for you. But basically, Gary Keller in that book talks about setting your goals, setting someday, and I'm going to leave the presenter view up here because I need to see what slides I'm going to show next. But he talks about making someday goals, 5-year goals, 3-year goals, 1-year, monthly, and weekly goals. We're going to focus in on the bottom 3, but someday goals are really what a lot of people call a vision board. I know that Pat Hayes and several other people that I know have vision boards in their office, and they're basically big boards with photos of things that are their goals for someday. It could be, a big house. It could be material. It could be a car. Mike Sherrard talked a lot about what's that purple car he bought, a Lamborghini or something like that. That's, a goal of his. It could be non-material goals. It could be health. It could be wellness. It could be freedom. It could be financial freedom. It could be whatever. Someday goals are lofty. They're out there. They're in the future. And they're things that we all, it's just a part of what we'd love to have be a part of our life someday. And so some people call it a vision board. Gary Keller calls it someday goals. And then what he basically does is have you always ask the question, and here's exercise 1, someday, what's the one thing you take, just one of those someday goals. So let's just say it's, has to do with being healthy. Okay. You say, what's the one thing I want to do someday? And you put that goal down, either professional or personal. And then you ask yourself, based on that goal, what's the one thing I can do in the next 5 years? And then you ask yourself, based on my 5-year goal, what's the one thing I can do this year? Based on that goal, what's the one thing I can do this month? What's the one thing I can do this week? And the way he asked the question, what's the one thing I can do that if I do over other things will get me closest to that goal? Okay, so it's you're drilling down on what's a focus. And then what's the one thing I can do today? And what's the one thing I can do right now? He gives an example in the book. I'm going to give one of my own in a moment, but he gives an example, real life example of a lady who took a workshop with him on, she wanted to ultimately become the main act at a jazz venue. So huge feat. So she worked backwards. And so on that someday goal, in 5 years, she wanted to have 25 jazz classics mastered, enough for an entire performance. And in 1 year, she wanted to have the first 5 of the 25 mastered. So that'd be 5 per year. And then this month, she wanted to start practicing So this week she was going to identify the 25 jazz classics that she wanted to focus in on. And then today she was going to start research at the Library of Jazz Music. So that's an example of how that works. So you do that for every single someday goal you might have. If you're having difficulty determining what your someday goal would be, which was me when I first started this, then just think of 5-year goals. So all my kids will have graduated from high school in 5 years, actually before then, but by 5 years when I started this a couple years ago. So I had some 5-year goals for when they're in college. I could think 5 years out. If you can't think 5 years out, then just do a 1-year goal. But it's good if you can, the further you can go out and drill down on how you're going to get there. So once you do that, you've got your someday goals, and you've asked yourself the question, what's the one thing I could do in 5 years? And what's the one thing I can do in 1 year? Then you can put the someday, 5-year, and 1 years on this exercise too. And you just write them down, the 5 personal. If it's 3, that's fine. If it's 7, add lines. What's your 5 business? And you do that for someday, 5-year, and 1-year goals. And so you put them out there. And from there, you move to each of the 1-year goals. So you take the bottom category here, 1-year goals, and you do an exercise with each one of those. What's my one thing for the year? Okay, so whatever that was, you decide what the priorities to achieve that goal are. And I'm going to show you one of mine here in a minute. And then you put down as many strategies as you can that are going to help you achieve those priorities and ultimately that goal. Okay, so we go from someday, and then we go through the exercise of how to break those down. And then we put this 3 of them down, someday, 5-year, 1 year, and then we start focusing in on 1 year, and we drill down from that. He calls it the GPS. So for each of our 1-year goals, so we're in January, and you're going to have 1-year goals, and on each of those, you're going to write it down, you're going to make priorities for it and strategies. You're going to drill down on how to achieve that goal. And here's the thing that we live by. It's called the 4-1-1. So it's 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. And you just transfer your 1-year goals to this page at the top. You put down what they are. And then you say to yourself, what's the one thing I can do this month to achieve goal number 1? And you put what that one thing would be for personal and business. And then you take week 1, okay, in the first week of January, what's the one thing I can do this week that if I accomplish will get me closer to my monthly goal than anything else? And usually there's a few things that you can put down there and you fill that out. So an example of what this looks like for me is, and I'm going to get real personal here. I'm going to wait to get real personal. I'm going to share a lot of personal things with you and be a little vulnerable. I'm also going to share some successes, and I just want you to know that when I do that, I'm not trying to brag about anything, because there's certainly people out there that could share a whole lot more. But it's worked for me to the point where I'm religious about this now, and it's worked for me, and I want to share how that's worked. So here's one of mine. I thought this was ambitious at first, but I put, someday I want to have $10 million in the bank. I used to never think this way, by the way, until I joined DXP. $10 million in the bank. And I thought, man, that's just crazy. But Grant Cardone talks about in his 10X, talks about 10 million is a number that these days, to be super comfortable and to be free, most Americans need to have in the bank. So I picked that number 10, someday. And in 5 years, I wanted to have $1 million in the bank. By in the bank, money you can touch that's in the bank, some form of, you don't have to sell a house to get it type thing. So then I made that, and I've changed this each year. So this last year, I wanted to be debt free, and I wanted to have $250,000 in the bank. And by the way, my wife has a company, she has a business, she contributes to this. So that was me and her, have $250,000 in the bank. So what was the one thing I could do that month to achieve that? Well, we were close to paying off her car, really close. And we had some credit card debt. and I wanted to bring it at 20% of the total debt. So if we had credit for worth $100,000, I wanted to bring that down to 20% of that, $20,000. So be below $20,000. I wanted to tighten our budget. I put State Farm there because I feel like I pay State Farm more than I pay anybody between cars and houses and all that stuff. So I put State Farm. And then I wanted to spend, originally I wanted to do 1,800 savings per month. I had to switch it to 1,500 because it was just too much. I was going to put that in a savings account no matter what. So what's the one thing I could do that week? And one of them was to pay off the car, and one of them was to pay off a credit card, and it was a small credit card. And what's the one thing I could do that day when I did this? And that was to pay my bills because I hadn't done it yet. And what's the one thing I could do right now is add all this to my to-do list, which is what I called it then. So that was drilling down on $10 million in the bank, ended up with pay bills and add to my to-do list. Okay. So I just leaped out in faith to do that and, begin to take action. So here's that someday 5-year plan for me. This is everything I wanted to do that year. I wanted someday to have $10 million in the bank. I wanted someday to speak Spanish fluently. Do not laugh at me. I wanted to someday be healthy and fit more than I am now, which is a ways to go. I wanted to golf at 100 or below. Again, do not laugh if you're a great golfer. And then I wanted multiple streams of income. In business, I wanted 1 million income per year. That's pretty lofty for, someday. Didn't want to sell real estate forever. I want to just be real estate entrepreneurs. So that could mean like rental homes. That could mean agent attraction, rev share, all that thing. I wanted to have 10,000 shares of EXP stock. And then I broke that into 5-year goals. So in 5 years, I wanted $1 million in the bank. This all came from that line 1 on personal, all came from that sheet you just saw. And you do that for each of these, okay? 1 million in the bank, converse with others in Spanish in 5 years, maintain my target weight, my numbers, health numbers, golf 100 or below, have multiple streams of income. And over on the business side, 2,000 plus agents and rev share in 5 years, 12 million production, 40 homes a year, 300K GCI. I wanted to be a 5-time icon. So I'd won it when I started this the first time. So I wanted to do it again each year. I was going to have 5,000 shares of stock. And then my 1-year goal, be debt free. You saw this already, $250,000 in the bank. Complete. If it's not crossed out, I did not accomplish it, by the way. Complete, this is because this ended this last year, complete a set of Spanish tapes, which I did not do. Target weight and health numbers. I actually did hit my health numbers. So for me, that's like my blood sugar is a certain place. My what do you call that? Blood pressure is below a certain number. And those are pretty good, but I'm not my target weight, obviously. And then golf twice a month, which I did not do. And then I also had, I wanted to read 10 books, and yeah, I had to change that. Now, if you look at the business side, I did pretty well. I wanted 10 personals, which I did get. I wanted 40 in my rev share group, which I have 42. I wanted to have at least 10 million production. And I'll kind of share some of this with you because I want you to see how it came out. I'll come back to it. Hang on one sec. I'm opening up things as we speak behind the scenes. Get that open. I keep track of that pretty closely to try to make sure I'm on track and see what things I can do. And that all goes back to the business plan that I went through earlier. It's opening. Almost. Just about. I'll push on until it opens. Let's see here. Trying to open Excel and it's going really slowly. Here we go. I'll pop back to it. So that was part of my plan. Was I did over 12 million. I sold 42 homes. GCI, I'll show you the sheet I used for that, was 293. That doesn't mean that's what I made, but that's what GCI was. Obviously there was expenses. And Icon, I'm close. If I close a deal this next Thursday, I'll be a second time Icon. So I'm on pace for that. And that was my goal. And my goal was to have 2,500 shares of stock. And I ended up with 2,765 shares of stock. So the business side, I did a pretty good job of hitting my target numbers. This is, by the way, the story of my life. If my wife were here right now, she would tell you, I'm usually pretty good at hitting my business goals, but when I was a teacher or a band director back in the day or whatever, I often will let my personal life just go as in place of business. So that's a goal for mine this year, is to make my personal life and things that are important to me on that left side to be as important as the right side. And it's a struggle sometimes for me. So I want to do better in the left column for this next year. If you look,
Hey, Mark, I got a quick question on the Icon thing. Since you did it 2 years in a row, how many houses did you typically have to sell to cap? And then did that make it a little bit easier when you cap sooner, obviously?
yeah, it does. So that's a great question. And I don't know what happened to the screen. Is your screen weird? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it's weird.
To answer, I'll get it fixed here in a second. To answer that question, I did this year. Well, the price points have gone up, which helps. So I'm usually between 9 and 12 houses before I cap. And then a lot of people think it's 20 deals after that. And it can be more than that. If you do a rental, it counts. But a rental is not going to get you the 250 always. So it's $250 per transaction if you sell a house. And so I this last year I did 42 deals. But obviously I'm just now doing, well, I started in March. So since March, I'll try to pull it up. I've done 30 deals. Next week will be 31. So it will have taken me about 30 deals to get Icon this time. Does that make sense?
Yes, thanks, Mark.
You bet. Let me see if I can get the screen to be normal again. Hang on. Sorry. I'm not the best at this kind of stuff. Let me find it. Here's something I use. I'm going to show it to you to kind of keep track of that. If I can get my screen to share again. Here we go. Here's my... Sorry, y'all. Here it is. I put together this little thing here that puts every property down and when I cap and when the new year is and keep track. So this year I ended up doing 12,193,294 GCI. That's not what I take home necessarily, but that's what I use. So it's, if you have some sort of system in an Excel spreadsheet that you can use to keep track, and sometimes you split deals with people, sometimes you take less commission. So that's why a form like that, and I can give everybody a blank template of that Excel spreadsheet. At the top, it takes out my EXP fees. Shows me where I am in terms of capping, shows me where I am in terms of Icon, shows me what my take home is. But having those kinds of systems in place are really, really helpful for me. So let me share with you the rest of the PowerPoint that we were on. This one. This is the right one. Nope, wrong one. This one. It keeps going to the same place. Hang on, guys. Sorry. Tony, you're better at this stuff than me. You should be running this part. I found it. There we go. So anyway, you can see how I broke that down. The debt-free part, 250 in the bank, pay off debt besides my homes. So those were one priority. There were two strategies. Tighten my budget. I did get with State Farm. I shopped to all my insurance, and they ended up still being cheaper. but they ended up making it cheaper for me by looking at the policy and changing some things. We have a home in Taos and we have a home here. And we had back then, we had some friends that lived down at the Pearl apartment and they had to leave town, or they left that apartment. We sublet it just to have a little fun, like for 3 months. So I had TVs down there. Anyway, the point is I got rid of DirecTV, got a Roku, streamed all those places, saved a whole lot of money, just tightened. That's what I mean by tightened up on the budget. And so eliminated a car payment, eliminated credit card payments, which allowed us to have more money. And then I created a savings account where I started trying to put 10% of income into savings. So those were my 3 priorities and those were my strategies. I actually followed them and they worked. So it's really cool at the end to be able to go through and see that. So here's a monthly, an example of a monthly. You put up at the top all of those 1-year goals, okay? And then you golf twice a month, never did it. And then you put the monthly goals, and then you put Peloton 3 times. I was going to have a colonoscopy to make sure I'm in good shape, which is always so much fun. All kinds of things, listing appointment on the condo, repair amendments. And usually these, I'll see if I can pull up what I'm doing now. Usually these look a lot more filled out. So they're crazy looking. So they're not pretty, but they're just something for you to keep track of. And you have 1 per month, and it really, you have it in whatever you carry around every single day. And it really allows you to just kind of stay on top of those things. So that's what this kind of looks like, just to give you an idea. So there are a couple of takeaways that's basically the system. Takeaways I wanted to leave with you. One is I use that sheet I just showed you every day, the 411. So I always have in front of me what my yearly goals are. I don't look at them a ton, but they're there just to kind of reference to. I have my monthly goal in front of me, and then I have a weekly plan, which ends up filling up with all kinds of marks on it. I review my goals every month and I make adjustments if I need to. So what I would say about this, even on the weekly that I showed you earlier when we started the whole presentation, I'm one of those people that I'm not a super disciplined, live moment by moment on the calendar type person. I just tend to break it. I have a friend, some of you guys know him, Mark Kell. He's with EXP. Mark and I used to work together, and Mark's the kind of guy that if it says on his calendar that at 8:13 a.m. he's going to do 50 push-ups, then at 8:13 a.m. Mark does 50 push-ups. And I'm the kind of person that if it says at 8:13 I'm going to do 50 push-ups, then there's just something in my soul that just rebels. And so I'm more of a, I'm going to make time at this time to get these things done. And I have to build into my schedule some downtime or some just dream time, if you will. I just have to do that. So, I don't know that it's healthy to just constantly obsess on the end result of goals. What I think is better is to use this as a template and structure for you to keep your goals in focus. But what I'd really talk, and you could do that by reviewing them every month, making adjustments, reviewing them quarterly, making big adjustments. So if you see your GCI is going to be a lot higher than you thought, you make that adjustment. And then every year you review them to see your progress towards your 3 and 5 year goal. But the biggest thing is fall in love with the process, which was hard for me to do. The daily, weekly, monthly progress is what will really begin to motivate you. So when you begin to see that one week, that your first week, you accomplished most of those things, which allowed you to achieve one of the things for that month. And then when you've got 2 or 3 months by and you realize you've achieved some of those monthly goals, which are putting you way closer to that yearly goal, it's pretty cool when you look back at the end of the year and you're able to see how much you accomplished just by feeling good about the daily and the weekly routine. And it surprised me when I really followed this that first year and just kept my goals in focus and in mind. It's just amazing how much it took off. So I don't know where it comes from, but somebody says that a certain percentage of the most successful people in the country, I forget what it is, very high, write their goals down. So just simply by writing them down and having them with you, and glancing at them and breaking them down, making them more achievable, and being free and open enough to adjust them if they're not working for you, is liberating, I think, and makes you become one of those few people that are highly successful in relation to others. And that's just kind of, I think it's probably the biggest key, is to start the year with a plan, with goals, with something that you're passionate about and that you want to make happen. This is just one system to make that happen, but there's lots of other ways to do it. I've seen tons that work. I just like this one. For me, I have to take, when I do this, I have to take the better part of a day, sometimes a couple of days. And I have to be in a certain frame of mind just to do that. But it's worth it if you take a day off and sit down and knock some of this out and really think about what's important to you someday, 5 year, 3 year, 1 year, and then put it on paper, adjust it, play with it, and then start living by it. It makes a really pretty big difference. And that's it, Tony. Does anybody have anything that they want to contribute to that, or something that works for you that you is powerful in your life, or anybody have a way of setting goals that you'd like to add? Would love to hear it for sure.
Yeah, I had a quick question, Mark. Number one, thank you for
Mhm.
sharing all that and being open and honest about your goals. You helped me sell real estate, and I'll help you play more golf. So
It's a deal.
all right. um, all those 411 and stuff like that, that's all free online, isn't it?
It is, and I don't mind emailing everybody just the individual pages themselves.
Okay, cool. No, that sounds great. I like it a lot. I've read The One Thing. That was one of the first books that Alan told me to read. I read it. I really liked it. It probably didn't hit me as hard as it needed to, especially early on. But I do want to play around with that, because I know Alan and I did it a little bit differently, but it really breaks down very similar to going, what am I going to do monthly, weekly,
Mhm.
daily, and making sure that you take those actions. And when you see that laid out, no matter how it's laid out, you just go, oh, wow, it's really that simple, quote unquote. It's like, I got to do this today. If I do that again tomorrow, then I'm going to
Mhm.
hit that weekly goal, and then it's going to
Yeah.
push me forward to that monthly goal. So, yeah, it's great information. There, like you said, there's other ways to do it, but whatever way works best for you, right?
Yeah.
Is the most important thing to
Yeah.
take.
The thing I forgot to add that they talk a lot about, the one thing, is to just time block some time free from everything else to make sure that you can focus in on the one thing. So what the one big project for that day is, if it's a couple of hours, just put some time block in there. Everyone has a to-do list, and what they recommend is time blocking in the morning if you can, and in the afternoon start knocking out your to-do list. Have the to-do list, but the to-do list isn't what's going to get you to your goals. So like, I need to do a market analysis for a potential seller, and I'm going to do that this afternoon, because I can, I don't need to necessarily block up time for that, or show houses or whatever. So, and just another thing to think about. Give yourself, if it's in the afternoon, it's in the afternoon, whenever it works for you.
Yeah, great. Anybody else do we have any questions for Mark? Any comments? Anybody would like to join in?
So I have a couple, Mark, and thank you very much. For someone to be vulnerable and share their actual goals it's meaningful to me. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you.
It makes it real, and it warms my heart, and it makes me excited, and so thank you for doing that. It means a lot to me that you would do that. I remember, I'll bring up a couple of things. I remember Zig Ziglar talking from the stage, and he made reference to a 1979 study that was done in the Harvard MBA program, and you guys may have heard him say this speech. But basically, what he said is that of that graduating class, 84% of the entire class, they had no goals. Right, 13% had goals, but they had no written plan. And 3% had a very defined goal list, but they also had a very defined action plan. And so when they followed that class 10 years later, the results were basically this: the 3% that had written their goals down and they had an action plan were averaging 10 times the annual income of the other 97% of that graduating class. So that's phenomenal to me, to think that can take place. But for me, whether it's the 411 or another program, when we write those things down, something else takes place when we read them as well, and we see them, because we're constantly in our conscious mind, right? But if we never write these things down, then we never let our subconscious mind work on our goals with us and for us. And that's what helps us manage our time. That's what helps us do some activities as opposed to other activities that help us get to that goal. It's that, if it's true anyway, it's our subconscious mind that keeps knocking on our conscious mind to say, hey, you need to go do this, or you need to go do that, because ultimately you wanted to accomplish a certain goal. So I think what you shared with us today just helps us activate our conscious with our subconscious mind. Now, I remember 25 years ago being in Canada at a top of the table meeting, and there was a Canadian downhill gold medalist that spoke to us, and it was a fascinating presentation. I remember him being up on this stage, and there were 5,000 people in the audience, and it was my first year at one of these types of meetings, and this guy's sitting on the stage on the top of a chair, so his feet are on the seat of the chair, and his behind is up on the back of the chair, right? And so he's constantly in this downhill position. But in the hour that he spent with us, this is what he did. So by the way, he set this goal to win gold in downhill, but he wasn't even raised in a part of the world that had mountains that allowed him to even do that. So if you look at the history of people that have won gold medals in downhill, they were raised, as little bitty kids in the Alps or in a part of the country that was their life. So the odds of this guy winning downhill were just virtually zero. But this is what he did. You can go to the store and buy these little packs of stickers. They're little yellow, they're 1/4 inch, they're little dots actually, right? And so what he did, he tied the main goal to that yellow sticker in his mind. Right. And so everywhere and I did the same thing, right? My girls grew up with yellow stickers on my car mirror, on my mirror in the bathroom, on my calculator at work, you don't see them after a while, but subconsciously you see them. So like if you walk into my office, in the corner of the door frame is a yellow sticker, right? But nobody else sees it, right? It's just you. And so it's this little 1/4 inch yellow dot. And what he said was, when you see it consciously or subconsciously, it brings that goal back to your conscious plane of thinking, and you stay on track way more than you ever dreamed that you would stay on track. So, that as I was listening to you today, that thought came back to me, that some of the biggest things I've ever accomplished in my life, I did it with that yellow dot program, right? I would say this year, this is my biggest 1-year goal that I want to accomplish. And I would tie that mindset, that particular goal, to that yellow dot for that year. And I'll share with you that I've never missed a 1-year goal when I tied the yellow dot to it. So somehow, human nature, we back away from what works. And I haven't done the yellow dot in a long time, but I appreciate you sharing all of this. It's got me excited to go back to the 1 dot program and some of the things that work for me. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool. That's pretty cool.
Great meeting today. And thank you guys for putting this together.
Oh, you bet. Thank you. Before we leave, do you mind if I share your promo video for next week?
Oh, no, go right ahead. As a matter of fact, I had to change it. I need to send you guys the link. There was a misspelled word on one of the slides behind it. You might pick it up, you might not, but no, absolutely, you can share it. Yeah.
Well, for everybody on the call, if you haven't seen, Randy's going to be here next Wednesday, the 12th, and he does an EXP Explain that's just out of this world. It's incredible. And I saw it for the first time, I guess, right before the break. And if you know someone who's not in EXP, it's a great opportunity to bring them, because you'll be pleased with with how the presentation is presented, because he presents it in a way that is just so eye-opening. But if you're with EXP, it helped me understand our own model in a way I haven't. There's so many things about it that it just opened up for me and made me so excited about our company. I was already excited about the company, but it's worth it just to come and get that affirmation of why we're all here together. And he put a short. I've been stalking you, so I hope you don't mind. I think this is it. But he put a short promo out. I'm going to play it real quick. This is from that meeting, I guess, before Christmas. Hopefully you guys can hear it. Let's see.
There's something that's going on across the country, really across the globe now. Agents are deciding to partner with EXP. That's why I'm here right now on this stage, taking this thing apart, putting it back together to ensure that everyone that can hear my voice doesn't miss this model. You don't have to continue to watch others grow. So if where you are at doesn't have the nutrients, doesn't have the tools, come plant yourself somewhere that does have all that.
Tell you what, it makes me smile just watching it. Makes me happy. So
Thanks.
and that's the way. That's a perfect small little 48-second exactly of how I felt when I was there. So I'm looking forward to it. And you won't go wrong if you show up to watch this if you've not been to it. So I'm going to bring as many people as I can.
Thank you, Mark. Kind words. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
You bet.
Yeah, one thing, if I can criticize that video, that guy in the red vest needs to be on there a little bit more. No, thanks, Mark. Awesome job. A quick note, I don't know, I put my email on there, Mark, to send me any of that information. If anybody else probably wants to drop their email in there, maybe.
Okay.
So you can send that to them in the chat box.
Sure.
But awesome presentation, Mark. Thanks. And always enjoy
bet.
listening to you, Randy.
Yeah, and someone's asking where it is. It's next Wednesday, the 12th at 10 a.m. The presentation is at Align. It's Aligned, right? Mortgage?
It is aligned on Summit Drive.
On Summit Drive. I don't have the exact address, but Tony and I can get that information to you. So.
Yep. No, that sounds great. And Randy, it's always 10 to 11:30, correct?
It is 10 to 11:30. Yep.
Perfect. Sounds great. Looking forward to it.
Perfect. That's great. Okay.
Well, Mark, hey, thanks again. You carried the whole thing today, and I really appreciate you sharing all this information. I know I got something out of it, and hopefully a lot of us got something out of this. We did record it, so we'll put it up on the Facebook group for you to rewatch it and, pick it apart and ask questions. So feel free to, message us on there, and we'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. So thanks again, Mark.